Emma Carter almost did not join the company retreat. On Friday morning, she stood outside the office building in Seattle holding her coffee, watching coworkers load bags onto a large bus. Wondering if she should pretend to feel sick and go home instead. She liked her quiet routine, her small apartment, and evenings spent reading or walking alone. Crowds exhausted her, and forced social events felt like acting in a play she never auditioned for. But when she saw Daniel Brooks step onto the bus, greeting everyone with his calm smile, she sighed and followed the group inside. Something about his steady presence made the decision easier, even if she refused to admit why. The ride began loudly. Music played, people joked, and conversations bounced across the seats. Emma chose a window seat, hoping the passing scenery would give her an excuse to stay quiet. Rain clouds gathered outside as the city faded into forests and mountains. She watched water slide down the glass, feeling both peaceful and distant from the excitement around her. Across the aisle, Daniel laughed with coworkers, but he did not seem loud or showy. He listened more than he spoke, and when he smiled, it looked genuine, not forced. At one point, he glanced toward Emma, and their eyes met briefly. She looked away quickly, embarrassed by how aware she suddenly felt. After 2 hours, the bus reached a lakeside retreat surrounded by tall pine trees. The air smelled fresh and cool, and wooden cabins sat near a wide silver lake reflecting the cloudy sky. The team leader, Claire, welcomed everyone and announced that the weekend was about connection and relaxation. Phones away, work conversations banned. People cheered, excited to escape deadlines and emails. Emma smiled politely but felt unsure what connection meant for someone who struggled with small talk. As everyone grabbed luggage, Daniel walked beside her naturally, as if they had planned it. He noticed her quiet expression and joked that she looked ready to escape already. Emma laughed despite herself and admitted she was still deciding how long she needed to stay before disappearing politely. Daniel replied that if she vanished, she should at least warn one person first. His tone was playful, but his words carried warmth that lingered with her as they walked toward their cabins. The first evening centered around a bonfire by the lake. Flames crackled while coworkers roasted marshmallows and shared stories. Someone played guitar, singing familiar songs that people joined softly. Emma stood near the edge of the circle, enjoying the atmosphere without needing to be the center of it. The firelight reflected on the water, and for the first time in weeks, her mind felt quiet. Daniel appeared beside her, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate, and handed one to her without asking. She thanked him, surprised by how easily conversation flowed between them. They talked about simple things, work habits, favorite weekends, and how strange it felt to see coworkers outside the office. Daniel asked why she often left meetings quickly, and Emma hesitated before admitting crowds drained her energy. She expected him to laugh or misunderstand, but he nodded with recognition and said he felt the same way. That surprised her more than anything. Daniel always seemed confident and social at work, yet he admitted he practiced those skills carefully rather than naturally. The realization made Emma relax. She felt seen in a quiet way she had not experienced for a long time. When their hands brushed while setting down their mugs, both paused, aware of the contact. It lasted only a second, but something shifted. Neither mentioned it, yet the moment stayed between them like a shared secret. The next morning brought outdoor activities meant to build teamwork. Emma expected awkward games, but the fresh air helped her enjoy the experience more than she thought she would. She was paired with Daniel for a kayaking challenge, and they laughed about being the 2 quiet employees forced into a competitive sport. At first, they paddled unevenly, spinning slightly while other teams moved ahead. Eventually, they found rhythm, moving smoothly across the calm lake. Halfway across, Emma stopped paddling and let the kayak drift. The silence felt different from the noise of everyday life. She admitted that life often moves so fast she forgot to understand her own feelings. Daniel listened carefully before answering that he waited for moments that slowed everything down. The words felt honest, not rehearsed. Emma realized she felt calm sitting there with him, floating between sky and water, far from expectations. They stayed still longer than necessary, sharing quiet without pressure to fill it with conversation. When they returned last in the race, coworkers teased them for taking too long. Someone joked they were bonding more than competing, and Emma laughed along, though the comment made her She noticed Daniel smiling thoughtfully, as if the joke carried truth neither of them fully understood yet. Rain returned that evening, tapping steadily against the lodge windows while the team gathered indoors for games. Warm lights and soft music turned the large room cozy. Emma helped organize board games while conversations filled the space. Suddenly, the lights flickered and switched to softer backup lamps, changing the mood instantly. Shadows softened faces and laughter quieted into smaller conversations. Daniel approached holding a deck of cards and suggested escaping the chaos. They found a small table near the window and began playing simple games. Conversation deepened naturally. They spoke about childhood memories, favorite travel dreams, and paths not taken. Daniel revealed he once wanted to become a writer but chose stability instead. Emma admitted she had moved cities after a difficult breakup that taught her to protect her heart carefully. She did not share details, yet Daniel did not push for them. His respect made her trust him more. At one moment, Emma laughed freely at one of Daniel's stories, forgetting to hide her emotions. He watched her quietly and said she seemed lighter here. The comment caught her off guard because she realized he was right. Away from routine expectations, she felt more like herself. Thunder sounded outside and lightning flashed through the window. Instinctively, Emma reached toward the table as Daniel steadied it at the same time. Their hands met again, resting together longer this time. The contact felt warm and calm rather than shocking. Neither rushed to move away, and for a few seconds, the busy room disappeared around them. Emma became aware of her heartbeat and the strange comfort of simply being understood without explanation. Eventually, she withdrew her hand gently, suddenly aware of how easily boundaries could blur. She suggested returning to the group, though part of her wanted to stay in that quiet corner longer. Daniel agreed, but both hesitated before standing, as if leaving meant ending something fragile. Back with the others, laughter resumed and games continued. Yet Emma felt different. She noticed Daniel across the room several times, each glance brief but meaningful. Nothing obvious had happened, yet something had changed beneath the surface. The retreat no longer felt like an obligation. It felt like the beginning of something she could not name. Later that night, Emma walked alone near the cabins, listening to rain fall softly on the lake. She thought about how unexpected connections often arrived when people stopped searching for them. She had spent years building emotional distance to avoid disappointment. Yet one weekend had already begun to challenge that protection. Inside another cabin, Daniel sat by the window thinking about the same moments: the drifting kayak, shared laughter, the way Emma listened carefully before speaking. He felt both hopeful and cautious. Workplace friendships required balance, and feelings complicated everything. Still, he could not ignore the ease he felt around her, a calm rare in his busy life. As the retreat continued, both carried a growing awareness they tried not to examine too closely. They told themselves it was simple friendship formed through shared experiences. Yet small gestures, walking side by side, quiet conversations, accidental touches suggested something deeper forming naturally. Emma went to sleep wondering why she felt nervous about Monday returning. Daniel lay awake thinking about conversations he wished would continue. Neither spoke about it, but both sensed the weekend was changing them in ways they had not expected. What began as a company event meant to strengthen teamwork was slowly becoming personal. The laughter, the lake, the rain, and the quiet understanding between two people created a space where emotions could grow unnoticed. They called it crew bonding, a harmless phrase repeated by coworkers throughout the weekend. But somewhere between shared silence and gentle smiles, Emma and Daniel realized that some connections did not follow workplace rules or schedules. They grew quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment when ordinary life returned and forced them to decide whether what they felt was temporary or the beginning of something neither of them was ready to lose. Monday morning arrived too quickly. The retreat ended with hugs, photos, and promises to stay connected. But as the bus rolled back toward Seattle, Emma Carter felt a quiet heaviness settle inside her. The weekend had felt separate from real life. like a small world protected from routine. Now office buildings replaced mountains. Notifications returned to phones. And conversations slowly shifted back to deadlines and meetings. Across the aisle, Daniel Brooks sat quietly scrolling through emails, already stepping back into his professional role. They exchanged a small smile when their eyes met, warm but careful, as if both understood that something unspoken needed time. At the office, everything looked exactly the same: gray desks, glowing monitors, and the steady hum of work. Yet Emma noticed how different it felt. She became aware of Daniel's presence even before seeing him. During meetings, she caught herself listening for his voice. When he explained project updates, his tone remained calm and focused, giving no sign of the relaxed man she had spoken with beside the lake. Emma wondered if she had imagined the closeness they shared. Days passed quickly. Work demanded attention, leaving little space for reflection. Still, small moments continued to appear. Daniel stopped by her desk to ask simple questions he could have sent through email. Emma found herself lingering near the coffee machine longer than necessary. Their conversations stayed professional, but an undercurrent of familiarity remained, making ordinary exchanges feel meaningful. One afternoon, a sudden rainstorm darkened the office windows, reminding Emma of the retreat. She paused her work, lost in memory, when Daniel approached holding 2 cups of coffee. He placed one beside her keyboard without speaking. She looked up, surprised, and he simply said, "Thought you might need a break." The gesture felt gentle and thoughtful, bringing back the calm she had felt at the lake. They talked quietly about work at first, then about the weekend. Neither mentioned feelings directly, but both acknowledged how peaceful it had been. Emma admitted she missed the silence of the water. Daniel nodded and said some places made people more honest with themselves. The comment lingered between them long after he returned to his desk. As weeks passed, their friendship deepened naturally. They began eating lunch together occasionally, sometimes joined by coworkers, sometimes alone. Conversations moved easily from books to travel dreams and family stories. Emma noticed how Daniel listened carefully, never interrupting, always remembering small details she shared. In return, Daniel felt comfortable revealing parts of himself he usually kept private: his worries about career choices, his fear of becoming stuck in routine, and his hope to one day write again. Despite growing closeness, both remained cautious. Workplace boundaries mattered, and neither wanted to risk misunderstanding. Emma told herself it was safer to keep emotions quiet. Daniel reminded himself that friendship was enough. Yet the more they tried to label their connection, the harder it became to ignore how naturally they gravitated toward each other. One evening, the company hosted a small after-work gathering at a nearby restaurant to celebrate a successful project launch. Music played softly and coworkers relaxed after a long week. Emma almost skipped the event, but decided to go at the last moment. When she arrived, Daniel was already there, laughing with colleagues. He noticed her immediately and waved her over, his smile genuine and welcoming. As the night continued, conversations shifted into smaller groups. Emma and Daniel ended up walking outside for fresh air. The city lights reflected on wet streets, and cool wind carried the smell of rain. For a moment, neither spoke. The quiet felt familiar, echoing the stillness of the lake. "I keep thinking about that weekend," Daniel said finally. Emma hesitated before answering. "Me too." He looked at her carefully. "It felt different from normal life." She nodded, unsure how honest to be. "I think we were more ourselves there." Daniel smiled softly. "I feel that way when I talk to you here too." The words surprised her. She felt warmth mixed with nervousness. For months, she had protected herself from emotional risks, but standing there, she realized she no longer wanted distance. "I was afraid it would disappear when we came back," she admitted. "Was I acting like it did?" he asked gently. "No," she said quickly, "just careful." He laughed quietly. "I didn't want to make things complicated." Emma understood. Work relationships required balance, and neither wanted to create discomfort. Yet pretending nothing existed felt dishonest now. They walked slowly along the sidewalk, their pace unplanned but matched. Conversation turned deeper as they spoke about timing, fear, and how adults often ignored feelings to avoid uncertainty. Daniel admitted he respected her too much to rush anything. Emma appreciated his patience more than grand gestures. When they returned to the restaurant, something between them had changed. Not dramatic, but clearer. They were no longer pretending the connection was accidental. Over the following weeks, they continued spending time together outside work in simple ways. Coffee after office hours, walks through parks, quiet conversations that stretched longer than expected. Nothing felt forced. They learned each other's habits, favorite songs, and small worries. Emma felt safe expressing thoughts she once kept hidden. Daniel felt encouraged to pursue writing again, sharing short pieces with her that she read carefully and praised honestly. One Saturday afternoon, they visited a bookstore downtown. Emma watched Daniel browse notebooks, smiling as he discussed story ideas with excitement she had never seen before. She realized how much he changed when he allowed himself to follow passion instead of responsibility. That realization made her feel proud of him in a way that felt deeply personal. Later, while walking near the waterfront, they paused to watch ferries cross the water. Wind moved gently around them. Without thinking, Emma reached for Daniel's hand. The gesture felt natural, not planned. He looked surprised for only a moment before holding her hand warmly. Neither spoke. Understanding the moment did not need explanation. The relationship grew slowly, built on trust rather than intensity. They shared fears openly, promising honesty above everything. Emma admitted she once believed emotional closeness always led to heartbreak. Daniel told her that meaningful connections required courage despite uncertainty. Together, they chose to move forward carefully but sincerely. At work, professionalism remained their priority. They respected boundaries, keeping personal matters private while maintaining teamwork. Coworkers noticed their easy cooperation but saw only friendship. Emma appreciated that balance. It allowed their connection to grow without pressure. Months later, the company announced another retreat. When Claire shared the news during a meeting, laughter filled the room. Someone joked about more crew bonding, and Emma exchanged a quiet glance with Daniel. Both smiled, remembering how everything began. That evening, they walked by the same lake featured in photos from the retreat brochure. Daniel admitted he once believed meaningful moments happened only in special places. But now he realized they could continue anywhere if people chose honesty. Emma agreed, understanding that the retreat had not created their connection, it simply revealed it. As sunset painted the sky, Daniel thanked her for encouraging him to rediscover parts of himself he had forgotten. Emma replied that he helped her trust again. Their journey had not been dramatic or rushed. It had unfolded through patience, kindness, and shared understanding. Standing together, they recognized that what started as a simple workplace event had changed their lives quietly. They had entered the retreat as coworkers, searching for rest from routine, and returned as two people learning how to open their hearts again. People still called it crew bonding when talking about that weekend, laughing about games and campfires. But for Emma and Daniel, it meant something deeper. Reminder that connection often begins in ordinary moments, grows through trust, and becomes real when two people choose to see each other clearly. And as they walked forward together, hands gently linked, they understood that sometimes the smallest moments carried the greatest meaning. And sometimes hearts recognize truth long before words were ready to say it.